Welcome back to Champagne Life Coaching. And we're actually celebrating you, your teams, and your progress and your growth. And to do that, we do that with the course called Champagne, which is the first letter in celebrate. And for you, we're specifically on attach to, bond to their story with yours. So, what does this actually mean to attach your story, bond to theirs? Well, you take your story, whatever it is that's transformed you, that's made you, and it can be more than one story. And then you take your story and you attach it to your team member's story. So, say, for example, your story is you were transformed, for example, by an incident. You learned to love books because an incident happened in your life. For example, um, you had nothing else to do. It was a rainy day and there was just books to read. There was no internet. You were a kid and you read your first story, adventure story, and you went to a world that nobody else went to. And so reading books brought you closer to other worlds, gave you different experiences, because you know what they say. People who don't read live one life. People who read live thousands of different lives. And so by you taking your story and living your story with their story, you're living each other's lives and you are finding a common place to develop. And it's that intimacy with you, with your team members, your upliners, your downliners, whoever's around you in your business. So this video is about why we actually tell stories. So the big thing about stories and its major purpose is that it connects. Before the internet, before PowerPoint, before anything, our ancestors were telling stories. You can go to the caves, you can go to South Africa and see on the rocks, and you can see how stories were told through the written word or word of mouth. But even today, this hasn't died because the media, socialists, are all picking up on how to socialize on the media with this storytelling, adverts, etc. And as we've discussed before, I teach you the difference between me teaching you how to tell a story and others is I teach you the beauty of a story, the framework of the beauty of a story, how to do it, but I also teach you the beast. I teach you how to acknowledge the beast and how to not be swayed by the beast in a story, but also to make sure that you bring the beast out, but make the beast into a beautiful prince in your story. So using stories connect us to people, it moves people, and persuasion is the centerpiece of any business. In order for your client or your customers to buy from you and your product, they need to be persuaded that this product is going to meet them at a place where they need it and may want it, but actually you help them to need it. And this is where the storytelling comes into place. So persuasion is the centerpiece of your business. Customers must be convinced to buy your company's products or services. And they normally buy from a person. People don't buy products just for the sake of buying a product. They normally buy from the person they can identify with. So this goes for your employees or your colleagues, if you or even your investors. If you want them to buy into you, to buy into your product, to buy into the shares, and to become a shareholder or a partner, or to buy your stock, or to get the next deal, one has to persuade them. And one does this with the best tool, and perhaps the only tool that will move people, is a story. A story that not only is a story, but a story that attaches to their story. Because they have to connect with you. They have to resonate with you. It's so imperative. Think of all the stories that's been told when you were at school. You resonated with it. You connected with it. And so you bought into the idea. You bought into the strategy. So Most executives out there struggle to communicate with themselves, to communicate with their upliners, to communicate with their downliners, and to even communicate with the shareholders and the board. So if they're battling to communicate, they're obviously going to battle to inspire, to motivate, to encourage. And too often, this inspiration, this encouragement, this investment, or this persuasion gets lost in the equipments of the company. So, say, for example, you're doing a presentation, you get lost in your PowerPoint, you get lost in slides, you get lost in dry memos, you get lost in the hyperbolic arrows that you shoot to the corporate, trying to communicate this to the department, perhaps using big language that sounds sophisticated. So, even the most carefully researched and considered efforts and preparation comes with cynicism from the board, upliners, downliners, lassitude, and absolute dismissal. And this is where storytelling comes in. And I'm sure you've experienced this, that you just get dismissed left, right, and center if someone doesn't buy in to your story. So let's toss the PowerPoint slides and let's tell stories, because stories bring an element of nourishment. It brings an element of engagement to the person you're talking with. They've done research that when you're just discussing facts and strategy, which has their place to sell your product, but you also need to have your story. And they've done research that when facts, strategies, and data are being displayed or you're confronted with it, one part of your brain lights up with the other part of your opponent or whoever's on your side just lights up. But they've done research that when you actually tell a story, yes, when you tell a story, your brain lights up on a whole. Every little section lights up, gleams, glows, beams, and beams onto the person listening. And once you beam onto the person listening, this lights up their whole brain. So can you imagine lighting up somebody else's brain with yours and connecting in light, connecting in thought, connecting in vibration, connecting in energy? How phenomenal is that? The only thing in life that does that is stories. So I cannot impress more on you how important stories are. The big part of a CEO or an executive's job is to motivate people to reach certain goals. And you cannot do that if you don't reach the heart. You can reach the mind and they'll do it out of duty. But if you reach the mind that drops to the heart and the mind and the heart connect, that's when the arms extend. Because your arms are connected to your heart, your neck, and your mind and your body. So you cannot get somebody to do something if the mind and the heart's not connected. And this is where to reach your goals, you need to reach their hearts. And to do that, you've got to engage with their emotions. And the key to anybody's heart is a story. They say to a man's heart is food, to your client's heart, to your upliners, your downliners, to the shareholders, to the investors, your story connecting with their story. Light up their minds. Because when you light up someone's mind, you illuminate and radiate energy into the heart, which then extends into your arms and your hands, and they're motivated to get things done. Because this is what gets things done, isn't it? So there are two ways to persuade people. You can do it the conventional way or the rhetoric way, the way you've been trained in university or at school, and that is to touch the intellectual side. But if you take the intellectual side, your idea, and you united with emotion, with a story, idea, emotion, story, persuasion, motivation, job done, light up the world, light up your business. You cannot make your business grow without this. And at the core of every good business, every fast growing business, is stories, but not just stories, stories that are attaching themselves to the other person's story. So that's today's lesson. I'm leaving that with you today and sending you lots of positivity. I hope this helps you today.